Okay, so what I'm going to do here in this video is just introduce you briefly to R using RStudio. So the first thing I'd like to show you is how to create a vector, which in this case will be a variable. So the first thing you'll do is create a name for your vector. Here I'm calling it var1. And you write equals C. C tells R to expect a vector. And then we're going to put in some quotations, large, small, and medium. And we'll have created a vector for variable 1. If you type in var1 and hit enter, you'll just see what we typed in before. Quote large, quote small, quote medium. It gives us back exactly what we typed in, including those quotation marks. You notice to the right here that it says we have var1 in our workspace on your right here, character. So these are just the elements within var1. Now what I'd like to do is to change the class of the variable so that it will be recognized as an ordinal variable or a nominal variable first. We'll do it as a nominal variable first. So what I'm going to do is type in var1 as.factor, and I just want to type in var1 as.factor var1. So that changes the type to factor, and you can see that in our workspace over there to the right. Once you click var1, you'll see that we have large, small, and medium, and our levels are large, medium, and small. Quotes are gone because this is now a factor. It knows that this is a nominal variable. But the order is all wrong, right? So we have person 1 with a large, person 2 with a small, person 3 with a medium, but if you look at the levels, it thinks that it's large, then medium, then small. So what we're going to have to do is change this to an ordinal variable. So to do that, we're going to save it again, var1, this time as an ordered variable. So again, we'll be changing the class of this variable so that R will know this is an ordinal variable, and then we'll also change it so that small is less than medium is less than large. To do that, type in var1 equals ordered, and var1, because we already have var1 in. Make the levels equal to C. C is a vector again, so your levels have to be a vector. Small, medium, and large will be our levels in that order. And once again, if you type in var1, hit enter, now you'll see that person 1 is a large, person 2 is a small, person 3 is a medium, but the levels are correct. Small, less than medium, less than large. You'll notice that I'm typing in hash mark notes here. R will allow you to take notes using that hash mark. So just type in hash and you can put in whatever you'd like. You can save that in your history. So let's create a new variable. This one's going to be numeric. I'm going to label it variable 2, var2 equals C. Again, C is just telling R to expect a vector of numbers in this case. So put in our numbers. Once we have our numbers, click enter. Again, I just want to test it, so I'll put in var2, click enter. You'll see to the right we have var2 in our workspace as a numeric variable of length 6. Pardon me. If this was a factor, right, it would have all these 6 levels down here, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, again in order, but our vector still would be 12, 10, 8, 13, 11, and 9, as you see there. So I basically just asked R what this would look like is if it were a factor. So that's what the as.factor is. I haven't changed it though. If you look at the right, you'll still see variable 2 is numeric with 6 elements. So now let's create a matrix by combining our 2 variables. So I'm going to call this matrix matrix 1. And I'm going to use what's called a column bind function, cbind, and I'm going to bind variable 1 and variable 2 into 2 different columns. cbind var1, var2, and you'll notice once I hit matrix 1 that we have two variables here, variable 1, variable 2, in columns with 6 rows. Each row is a subject. You'll notice that the matrix has repeated the variable 1 values twice because we only had 3 in there. This is done to complete our matrix, and it's also using numbers, so 3 for large, 1 for small, 2 for medium, and you see it has 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. But if we click var1, it's still just large, small, medium, and tells us our levels. We haven't changed variable 1. All we did was create a matrix that used variable 1, those 3 numbers, twice. So let's call on R to give us a column vector, a row vector, and a specific element within our matrix, matrix 1. So to do that, you're right, matrix 1, open a bracket. In order to find column, we're going to just do comma 1, and that'll give us our first column. So open bracket, comma 1, close bracket. That's just going to give us our first column. It goes row column, and we didn't put anything before the comma, so there was no row, just column 1. Now we're going to look for matrix 1. I'll look for row 2, 2 comma nothing, and then close bracket. That says give me everything in row 2 across all the columns. So you see there we have 1 and 10, that's what we had. That's not our first row vector, that's actually our second row vector. Now I'm going to look for a specific point here, matrix 4, 1. So that's row 4, column 1. Element is 3. And that's what we have there, var1, 3. I messed up here, I didn't put a hashtag in front, so R didn't understand what I did, but you notice once I put the hashtag in front, R understands it and knows that it's just a note. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to take that out of our history. So in our studio, it's really nice. You can just take things directly out of history over there to the right. So what I'd like to do now is create another matrix. This time I'm going to do it from scratch. I'm just going to create 4 numbers, create a matrix from scratch. So first thing that we'll need to do is put in some numbers. So the 4 numbers that we're going to want in our matrix, I'll call those cells. Cells equals C. Again, I'm just creating a vector. C is going to equal to 1, 6, 4, and 10. So there are the 4 numbers in our matrix. Now I'm going to want to give the rows and the columns some names, some headers. So I'm going to create a variable named rnames, and that's going to be a vector again. And this time I want it to be r1 and r2. And I'm going to create some column headers. It's another vector of length 2, and I want C1 and C2. Now I have my cells, I have the names. I can put all this together to create the matrix. So in order to do that, I name the matrix, matrix 2 in this case. And matrix 2 is going to be equal to a matrix, right, composed of what's in cells, right? And I'm going to tell it that it's going to have 2 rows, n row equal 2. I'm going to tell it it has 2 columns, n col equal 2, so it's going to be a 2 by 2 matrix. I want to put this in by row so that it fills out the rows first, row 1, then row 2. And I'm going to tell it dim names. That gives it the dimension names. And it's going to list R names and C names, which we created before. Those are the variables we created before with R1, R2, C1, C2. So you'll notice that I've created the vector, I created the matrix, and filled it in 1, 6, 4, 10 by rows. And you'll also see the column names and the row names, C1, C2, R1, R2. All right, that's a quick intro to R.